Today I thought it would be fun to take you on a little tour around the farm and show you some of the ways that we are growing daffodils here. So this first spot is the backyard, and we have a little pond over here. We have some old fruit trees. We have a big walnut tree, and it's just kind of this peaceful, shady during the summer space, but in the spring it still gets lots of sun. And there wasn't a lot going on here, and I wanted to see, could we infuse it with some more beauty in the springtime? And so we decided to plant a collection of daffodils at the feet of the trees in the grass so that they could naturalize or just expand on their own. So rather than having them in long rows like we would for cut flowers, we're just letting them kind of scamper about and meander through the grass in a kind of wild, natural way, so it feels kind of meadowy. So some of my favorite varieties, the ones that we've planted here that I think are the best for naturalizing, this is a variety called Pink Charm. It's a very strong performer, has these beautiful ivory outer petals and that soft apricot cup, and it does really, really well just kind of pushing up through the grass. This is a total beauty, one of my favorites for cutting. It's called Thalia, and it has these kind of slightly nodding star-shaped flowers that are kind of a cream with a little bit of a kind of a yellowy green, and they have a nice light scent. And then over here we have a old ancient variety called Poeticus, and this one is actually one of the very best for naturalizing. So you can see it has these large kind of they almost look like little helicopter petals or something, and then when the breeze comes through, to me they look like butterflies dancing in the breeze. So we've got clumps of these, like no rhyme or reason. We just plunked them around in the grass. And you can see that the grass is tall in some places, it's short in others. In some spots, the slugs have chewed the petals, but you know, it doesn't matter. The point of this space is to just be beautiful and filled with spring bounty, really. So here under the trees, you can see these guys are a little bit not quite as far along. They haven't had as much sun. So you can see here we've got Thalia, more Poeticus, and this was a little experiment to see if this is it's not a daffodil, but it's a plant called Leucojum or giant snowflake, and the variety is called Gravetye Giant, and they make the most beautiful little white bell-shaped flowers with green-tipped petals, and they are doing so well naturalizing in the grass. So this was a great addition. So I wanted this garden to feel very kind of old-fashioned, like you're at Beatrix Potter's house. And so that you could see the apple trees are just about to burst forth into bloom. So you'll have those creamy, blushy blossoms with all of these daffodils dancing at their feet. And it really creates like a scene out of a children's book. All right, so welcome to the orchard. And this is the other place that we have lots and lots of daffodils planted. So one of the first things we did when we got the new farm, which was 6 or 7 years ago, was to plant fruit trees, because they always say the best time to plant a tree was yesterday, right, in order to get them to grow. And so this space is filled with apples, crab apples, plums, quince. What else have we got out here? Pears, maybe pluots. I think that's about it. And the space is beautiful in the spring when all these trees explode into bloom, and then it's beautiful in the summer and autumn when the fruit is ripening. But it was kind of a sort of an empty space, right? Just grass and trees, which is beautiful in its own. But when we were offering bulbs for sale, we did a lot of daffodils. And in order to make sure that everybody who ordered their flowers got enough bulbs, we always had to have a buffer. And so you'd have hundreds or if not thousands of extra bulbs just to make sure that if anybody had problems, you could send them a replacement. So at the end of each season, we had all of these buffer bulbs and just kept planting them in the cutting garden, and eventually ran out of room. And so when we got the new farm, we decided, well, Chris decided to dig up all the old bulbs and move them out here to the orchard where they could just stretch and be free and not take up precious growing space there, but actually like kind of live out their full glory here in the orchard. And so we've got all kinds of different varieties, all of my favorites really, just kind of intermixed. So we'll have big blocks. So this is a variety called Replete. It's one of the earliest to flower. It has these big, gorgeous doubly blooms. So you see it goes on. And then we've got some Leucojum again, Gravetye Giant, that we just tucked in here. and so on. And so it's just like there's kind of no rhyme or reason. We just put different varieties in chunks because that's what we had, and kind of mixed them up so it wasn't all just one thing. And the reason we've got these long straight rows is because that's how the plow could dig. So Chris just dropped the plow on the tractor, everybody dug up all the bulbs in the garden, and then slowly we transplanted all of them. So at the time of transplant, this was close to 40,000 bulbs, and then we have since added to it. But you can see how well they're doing out here. So the trees are about to burst open, all the crab apples, and then they have these gorgeous like Ice King daffodils at their feet. And then the daffodils can just spread out and do their thing. Now we try not to mow these until the foliage starts to turn yellow. So the grass does get pretty high in here. And then about June, Francisco will come through and cut everything down. We will mow in between, but we want to let this foliage get lots of sunlight so that it can help recharge the bulbs, and then they can multiply. So the great thing about daffodils is that they're perennials. And so every year they expand, they grow, and they multiply, which is like the best value. Like with a tulip, they come back worse every year. Daffodils, they come back better. So that to me, they're like the best value when it comes to spring bulbs. Now, deer don't like to eat them, which is awesome. They generally are very healthy and don't have any major pest pressure except one thing. So let me show you over here. Let's see, this just broke my heart. I found this last night. So here at the end are some new varieties that we planted. So I've just got the variety names on here. This one is called Candy Princess. I just want to make sure that I get that labeled so you can see these beautiful flowers with that really pretty salmon throat with little white curlicues. But over here is where we've got the trouble. So this is a variety called Llanfair, and you can see slugs are kind of a problem. Here we got a little baby slug on the petal of this, and you can see they've just gone in here and chomped these guys, which is heartbreaking. They're just totally trash. So that is one pest that does bother daffodils. And so in a very sluggy year, you're gonna have trouble. But if it's not a sluggy year, or if you have ducks or some kind of slug repellent, you should be fine. But the ducks don't come all the way out here because they're afraid of eagles. And so these daffodils are on their own. So we've got smaller clumps over here, so you can see there's kind of less color than on this side. And then this row we're walking on doesn't have any daffodils yet, but then come check this out over here. I mean, can you even handle how beautiful it is? The clouds of plum blossoms with the daffodils at their feet. It's just such a spectacular sight. And then we could come out here and pick to our heart's content. When it comes to picking daffodils, there are a couple things to keep in mind, and here is a perfect example. So daffodils leak a kind of a toxic clear sap, and it's not that it's so toxic to us, even though I do wear gloves. Some people have kind of an allergic reaction to it. It can make their skin a little bit itchy. But the thing that you want to keep in mind, it's going to drip here in a second, is that this sap, when it gets in the water of a bouquet, if there are other types of flowers besides daffodils mixed in with them, it's going to actually really shorten their vase life. So one of the tricks is, after you pick your daffodils, you leave your freshly cut bunch in a vase of water for a couple of hours, let all this sap kind of ooze out, and then the bottoms of the stems are going to kind of callus over and stop leaking. And then you can mix those flowers, the daffodil flowers, with other flowers in a vase, as long as you don't recut them. So I want them. Do you see that? That icky, juicy sap? So pretend I was wearing gloves. I don't normally wear gloves when I pick daffodils, but if you're going to pick them, you probably are going to want to. Now, for the longest vase life, I really want this to drip for you. Here you go. See that? That's what we're talking about. Okay, so when it comes to picking them, you can pick daffodils really at any stage you want, just for personal use. But if you want to get the longest vase life out of them, so this is one of my favorite varieties. It's called Art Design, and it has these beautiful ruffled blooms. To me, they look like fresh, farm fresh eggs that are scrambled, stuffed in the middle of those trumpets. And they have this wonderful fragrance. They bloom early and they last really well. Great vase life, but they also do really well in crappy spring weather. So even if it's been windy and rainy and we've had hail, look how gorgeous these look. So they hold up really well. But in order to have a longer vase life, I could definitely pick these and make a bouquet, but if I can harvest them when they're a little bit more on the immature side, rather than this fully open bloom, this is actually the stage I'm going to want to pick it at. So we call this gooseneck, where the flower is starting to lift its head and face out kind of like a goose, but it hasn't opened yet. And so what I do, you can either take your snips and cut, but since we have so many and we've been doing this for so long, I just take my hand, I hold the top of the stem, and then I slide my other hand down to the base, and I just snap. And that's how I get the longest vase life. So you don't even have to use two hands. I just go down and snap, and then put it into my other hand, down and snap. I love that kind of thump. I don't know, something about it just reminds me of spring, of flower picking. So daffodils are really easy to pick that way. And then you could also definitely pick them on the more open side. It's just they won't last quite as long in the vase. So let's get a little bundle of these guys. You can also use your snips, just whatever works for you. But if I were to put these fully open flowers in a vase, I'm probably going to get, I know that smells so good, probably about 4 days of vase life. But if I put these guys that I've harvested younger, I'm going to get a good 7 days. So this really gives me longer vase life if I can be just push through the uncomfortability and pick them when they're a little bit young. Now, you don't want to pick them when they're too young. So here, if we look at these flowers, they still have that kind of papery covering over the tip of the bloom. You don't want to pick those. You want to wait till they've kind of pushed out of that paper and they're starting to color up, and they're little, instead of going straight up like this guy, they start to go over like this guy, like a little goose, and that's the perfect stage. So pick them when they're young if you can, and remember to wear gloves. And if you're going to be mixing them with other flowers, make sure that you give them a couple of hours to condition beforehand before you mix them with other things. Oh, daffodil season. If I could be one flower, if I could just like, you know, when they say not only what is your favorite flower, but if you could be one, I would want to be a daffodil because they're tough. They come back and multiply every year. They can handle the crappy weather. They're so cheerful. They just scream spring. There's just something about them I love so, so much.